Ladies and gentlemen, let's Gaming Silicon video. We have virtual reality on the brains today, specifically for consoles. So a couple of stories have popped up over the past 24 or so hours. One concerning the Xbox Scorpio, which is the upgraded Xbox. One concerning the PlayStation 4 Neo, which is the upgraded PS4. The highlight of both, the too long didn't read if you will, is that the PS4 Neo only existed because the vanilla PS4, the one that you're going to have probably at your home right now, was incapable of playing games in virtual reality to a level which was a pleasurable experience for users. And in regards to the Xbox Scorpio, there is actually virtual reality titles being developed for it right now, and a developer has confirmed this behind the scenes. We're going to deal with the PSvr rumours first. So, the quote was given anonymously, however it was by a CTO, Chief Technical Officer, and given to Edge magazine in the latest issue, which is 294. Now, the quote goes as follows. The PSvr was going to be terrible on a launch PS4. It was going to be truly awful. Something a bit more powerful starts to bring VR into range, and if you want to deal with the crazy requirements for performance in VR, you absolutely have to do this. In other words, if you take that quote, you can essentially say that the vanilla system is just not capable of running virtual reality headsets at a satisfactory level. Even the fact that the PSVR's headset does have excuse me, considerably lower pixel density than, let's say, the Oculus Rift, and so the Neo was created to facilitate better looking virtual reality experiences. But other developers have actually debunked this. For example, the individual, the CEO of Just Add Water by the name of Stuart Gilray has decided to debunk this. He was talking to NeoGAF. Well, speaking on NeoGAF, it's a forum after all. And the highlights are the PSvr is fine on regular PS4. Obviously things do look better on Neo, but considering the performance requirements, the actual experience is largely the same. He's going to call bullshit. I have a DVT PSvr dev kit sitting right next to me. We've already got our game running smoothly with a few simple optimizations at 90 FPS. Running 60 requires no changes. But because of the degree of freedom we have of movement, we settled on 90. If we didn't have camera movement on multiple axes, we could have left it at 60 and be done with it. Granted, our game isn't the look like Dark Souls or Uncharted. It does have fully realised visuals and physics-heavy gameplay. It was a bit challenging to track those elements down, which tend to hit performance in unpredictable ways in VR, but we had hardly seasoned developers here. And since we're doing a launch PSvr title, I can say this is total shite, as are his words. We don't have a problem running full speed on our title on a regular PS4. Now, I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that the developer in question who made these accusations, obviously I don't know who it is, all we know is he's a CTO, but the problem is it depends on perspective. Because, for example, let's say he works at Electronic Arts, and I'm not saying he does, because I don't know who the individual is, his name was withheld, but let's just say he worked at Electronic Arts, and they were creating a blockbuster AAA title, which they were also creating on the PC as well. Let's say it was a PC and a PS4 title, and it was virtual reality on the brain. Well, I can understand how, yes, it's going to be difficult for them to run a game which is going to theoretically look pretty darn impressive and get the maximum performance out of it. And I guess the argument you've got right here is, what are you intending to do with your game? Now, Sony themselves, and this is not verbatim, but they have basically said that you need to make some sacrifices if you want to get PSvr games out there, because you've got to hit that performance numbers, you've got to hit those frame rate numbers to be able to get a comfortable user experience. So it's possible that This developer was going for something really ridiculously optimistic. Maybe they were trying to run a game which was basically developed for PC, and then obviously it just didn't work. We don't obviously know what that studio were doing. However, I don't think the average PSvr game is going to run that badly. And the reason I want to talk about this is because some folks on the internet have already started to run around and said, well, maybe the hardware that has been demoed, the PSvr kits that have been demoed, weren't actually running on PS4 hardware or PS4 spec hardware. They were either Neo kits in disguise. After all, you don't know what the hell's inside the systems, overclocked PS4s, or more likely, simply PCs. So essentially, it's the old switcheroo, and we know E3 and other events are very famous for doing that, and it's particularly happened close to both systems' launches. So I'm going to say that I kind of believe this. I don't believe that PSvr is going to look terrible on the vanilla system, because it's going to piss too many users off. Imagine you spend, let's even say that you buy one at a discount. Let's say you even bought one used from your friend and it costs like $300 or $200 even. You're not then going to say to yourself, well, gee, I want to buy a Neo for this. It's not going to prompt you to do that. You want a good experience, at least a pretty darn nice experience, to then prompt you to buy the Neo, because you think to yourself it's going to look better. At least that's how my mind would work. If I had a really shitty, laggy experience that made me feel sick, nauseous, or it had like 5 pixels on screen at once, I would not think to myself, hey, you know what's going to fix this? Buying a Neo. These rumours, or this information, depending on how you want to look at it, comes from Ars Technica. So we all know that as soon as a studio is informed by Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, the chances of leaks happening are substantially higher, right? It's just inevitable. It's very difficult. It's pretty easy to keep a secret between 2 people, but when you start getting to 20 or 30 people, it's a hell of a lot harder, because good luck trying to track down the person who just told the secret. And that's very much the same that what we've had with the PS4 Neo and the Xbox Scorpio. For example, with Microsoft, they've been really good at keeping rumours recently. Like, really good, which is completely contrary to how it was back in the Xbox One early couple of months. Like, so many rumours were leaking out. Now it's pretty much like title in a duck's ass. However, I'm digressing. According to Ars Technica, a studio, a PR representative, said that they are working on a title which is Virtual Reality, and it will indeed be appearing on the Xbox One as well. Now, to clarify, it will also be on the PS4 and the PC. It will be shown off during E3 2016, but the Xbox One VR version, the Scorpio version, is not going to be shown. So in short, it's going to be announced for the other systems, but the virtual reality is not going to be announced for the Xbox. Now, it's quite interesting that this has happened, because we know that the Xbox, the current vanilla Xbox that you might have, just doesn't have enough power in it to run virtual reality devices. It just doesn't. Especially considering, unless Microsoft are doing something really sneaky, we know that Microsoft don't have their own virtual reality device in store, and the rumours have it that they are in talks with Oculus. And some people are speculating that that's why you've got the Xbox One controller bundled in with the Oculus, but whether that's true or not, your guess is as good as mine. However, if that's true, the only logical way to go forward with the train of thought is that most likely the Xbox One is indeed going to be getting a hardware upgrade. Most likely the Xbox One Scorpio is real. Now, for those of you who are not too familiar with it, the Xbox One is running about 1.3 teraflops. The Scorpio is going to be hitting about 6, which is gargantuan. It's much higher than the PS4 Neo. PS4 Neo is around 4 to 4.2, depending who you ask, and what the final clock speeds end up being. Even if you say that the PS4 Neo, at best, hits 4.5, 4.6 from a major upclock, supposedly it's around the 900 to 913 megahertz with 36 compute units. So even if you say that the PS4 Neo gets a large upclock, it's still going to be quite far behind the Xbox Scorpio, but once again, going by the rumours, the difference is the Scorpio is going to be released around a year later, and it's going to be an iterative hardware upgrade. So in short, we're going to see a Scorpio 2, a Scorpio 3. How often they're going to be released, we don't know. It's quite interesting because just a couple of years back, well actually 3 years back, 2013, the co-founder of Oculus, Palmer Luckey, said that the current generation of consoles were just not capable of running virtual reality, and he was classifying the PS4 as well as the Xbox One in with that. So he wasn't referring back then to the Xbox 360 and PS3. And he said that consoles just are locked in. So if you look at a PC that's like 5 years old, or he used 8 years old, it's so far behind now where we are technically, it's just ridiculous. I mean, for example, the GTX 1080 has just been released or launching, depending on your region, and it's 3 times faster than the 980, which was released roughly, I'm rounding up here, about 12 months ago. And yes, you can say that that GPU is hideously expensive. It's like £500-600 depending on the version you're buying, but that's not the point. I'm referring to the speed that hardware upgrades, and that hardware does trickle down to lower end GPUs as well. So for example, the 1060, the 1070, we can probably say they're going to be 2 to 3 times faster than the previous generation, which means, once again, virtual reality, the barrier for entry for VR, is considerably cheaper. So it's kind of cool. Really looking forward to the Scorpio, I must say. I'm looking forward to it from the perspective of, I want to see what they do. I'm looking forward to it from the perspective of, I don't think it's going to be a regular console. And I don't mean that in terms of like we're not going to get a console experience. I don't think it's going to, act like a vacuum cleaner when you're away from work. What I do mean, however, is that I think it's going to be a lot more unified towards the PC. I think it's going to essentially be a PC in a box. And that's going to be very interesting for the entire ecosystem of the gaming industry. And with the PSvr and the PS4 Neo coming out, especially the Neo, really want to see how that's handled. So, yeah. Confusing. Very confusing for the next couple of months to maybe the next year. And I think, and this is going very off topic, but I honestly believe, personally, that 2012 to 2013 were kind of interesting gaming years, and certainly before that there were good games released. They were. Like, anyone who said that good games weren't released back in the day were lying, because you had games like The Last of Us released, and the original, well, technically the reboot, Tomb Raider, and all these other games which were pretty awesome. But technology was kind of a bit slow, but now we're moving towards 28nm GPUs to 14nm GPUs. We've got ridiculously powerful CPUs. We've got virtual reality technology. We've got so many games. I mean, the games which are coming out, it's impossible to keep up with all of the games. I honestly believe that you could be pretty darn affluent. Like, someone could pay you money to try and keep up with all of the games. Like, someone could literally pay you, like, let's say $4,000 a month to play all of the games, all of the DLC, all of the content. And you would struggle. You could do it if you weren't trying to like max everything and get every single item. But it would be a struggle if you're like an average to pretty good gamer. If you're like one of the speedrunners, you might maybe do it. But if you're an average gamer, it's going to be difficult. Like, The Witcher 3's come out, and now you've had 2 pieces of lengthy DLC, which is 30 to 40 hours, depending on what you want to do. You've got games like The The Division, which may not be your cup of tea, but you could certainly sink a hell of a lot of hours into it. It's really cool. I think we're living in a really good time for gaming, no matter what system you support or whether you're just a gamer in general. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.